It starts with a moment so ordinary that most people would never think twice about it. A cashier slides a few coins across the counter. You scoop them up, drop them into your pocket, and walk away. No drama. No excitement. Just everyday change. But hidden inside moments like this is a quiet possibility that has fascinated Americans for more than a century. The idea that a single penny, something so small and overlooked, could carry a story far bigger than its size. Today, we're diving into one of the most misunderstood modern coins in the United States. A coin that millions of people have handled, spent, and ignored without realizing how much attention it gets from collectors. This is the story of the 2021 Lincoln 1-cent penny with no mint mark. A coin that looks ordinary but holds a surprising place in American coin history. To understand why this penny matters, we have to slow down and really look at it. Not just glance at it the way most people do, but truly observe it. The front shows Abraham Lincoln, the same familiar portrait that has appeared on pennies for decades. His expression is calm, dignified, and timeless. Above his head is the word liberty. In front of his face, the words "In God We Trust." Below, the date 2021. There is no mint mark anywhere on the coin, and that detail is where the story begins. In the United States, mint marks tell us where a coin was made. AD means Denver, and S usually means San Francisco. But when there is no mint mark at all, it means the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. This has been standard practice for most Lincoln pennies for many years. Yet despite being common knowledge among collectors, many everyday people still believe that a missing mint mark automatically means a mistake or a rare error. That belief has turned the 2021 no mint mark penny into one of the most searched modern coins online. But the real story is deeper than confusion alone. The year 2021 was not just another random year for American coinage. It came during a time when the world was still dealing with disruptions, shortages, and changes brought on by global events. The United States Mint faced challenges in production, distribution, and demand. Coins were needed everywhere, from grocery stores to gas stations, and pennies continued to flow into circulation at massive numbers. The Lincoln penny itself has always been more than just currency. Since its introduction in 1909, it has symbolized American history, leadership, and continuity. Lincoln was the first real person to appear on a U.S. circulating coin, and his presence on the penny changed coin design forever. Every Lincoln penny, no matter how modern, carries that legacy forward. The 2021 penny with no mint mark belongs to the shield-set design era. On the back of the coin, instead of the Lincoln Memorial or wheat stalks of earlier years, you see a shield. This shield represents Lincoln's role in preserving the Union. At the top of the shield is a banner with the words "E pluribus unum," meaning out of many, one. 13 vertical stripes represent the original states, unified under one strong nation. Many people assume modern pennies are boring. They think value only comes from age. But coin collectors know better. Value is shaped by condition, demand, and interest. A coin that survives in excellent condition, especially one pulled straight from circulation and preserved carefully, can attract attention even if it's recent. The 2021 no mint mark penny is extremely common in everyday use. Millions were struck, and they can still be found in pocket change today. However, not all of them are equal. Condition is everything. Most pennies are scratched, dull, and worn after just a short time in circulation. But some escape that fate. They end up in rolls, jars, or collections where they remain bright and clean. Collectors often look for pennies that appear almost untouched. Sharp details in Lincoln's hair, clean lettering, smooth fields, and strong lines on the shield. These small details separate an average coin from one that catches a collector's eye. The difference may not be obvious to the casual observer, but in the world of coin collecting, it matters a lot. Another reason this penny gets attention is because of how often people misinterpret its lack of a mint mark. Online videos, social media posts, and forum discussions have fueled curiosity. Some claim it's rare. Others call it a mistake. This constant debate keeps interest alive, and interest itself creates demand. Even modern coins can become desirable when enough people start paying attention. The 2021 Lincoln penny also reflects the reality of modern coin collecting. Not everyone can afford rare gold coins or historic pieces from the 1800s. Modern coins offer an entry point. They allow beginners to learn, search, and build collections without spending large amounts of money. This penny often becomes a starting point for new collectors, and that gives it a special role in the hobby. Searching through change becomes a kind of treasure hunt. You start noticing details you never cared about before. Dates, letters, textures. Suddenly, a simple penny becomes something worth examining. The 2021 No Mint Mark penny invites that curiosity. It asks people to look closer, to slow down, to question what they think they know. Over time, some coins from ordinary years gain recognition not because they were rare when made, but because fewer high-quality examples survive. Pennies are especially vulnerable. They're small, easily damaged, and often ignored. That's why finding one in excellent shape feels special. Even if the date itself is modern, it's important to be realistic and honest. This penny is not a secret millionaire coin hiding in every pocket. It's not going to buy you a house or change your life overnight. But it does have value beyond its face amount, especially to collectors who appreciate condition and preservation. And more importantly, it represents the idea that every coin has a story, no matter how new it seems. The fascination with pennies like this says something about us. It shows how much people love the idea of hidden value. The possibility that something ordinary could be worth more than expected. That curiosity keeps coin collecting alive and growing, even in a digital world where cash is used less and less. So, the next time you receive change, don't rush to spend it. Take a moment. Look at the date. Check the mint mark. Or the lack of one. That small copper-colored coin in your hand is a piece of American history, minted during a unique moment in time, carrying forward a design that connects generations. The 2021 Lincoln 1-cent penny with no mint mark may not be rare in numbers, but it is meaningful in its place in modern collecting culture. It reminds us that value is not always about age or scarcity. Sometimes, value comes from interest, condition, and the stories people tell. And when collectors talk about what this penny can be worth in the current market, especially in typical circulated condition, the amount often mentioned is $3.70. It starts with something almost too ordinary to notice. A single penny. The kind of coin most people leave behind on store counters, drop into car cup holders, or toss into a jar without a second thought. In the United States of America, pennies pass through millions of hands every single day. But every once in a while, one small copper coin carries a story that surprises even experienced collectors. Today, that story belongs to the 1981 Lincoln 1-cent penny with no mint mark. Imagine this. You're paying for coffee, groceries, or fuel. The cashier hands you your change. You slide the coins into your pocket, but later that night, curiosity kicks in. You dump the coins onto the table and notice a penny that looks a little different. Not older. Not damaged. Just quietly interesting. You flip it over. The date reads 1981. You check below the date, expecting to see a tiny letter. But there is nothing there. No D. No S. Just empty space. And that's when the question forms. Could this penny actually be worth something? To understand why the 1981 no mint mark Lincoln penny matters, we have to step back into history. The Lincoln cent design has been part of American life for generations. Introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln, it became the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical person. By 1981, The Lincoln Memorial design had already been in circulation for more than 2 decades, familiar to everyone, almost invisible because of how common it was. But 1981 was not just another year. It was a turning point in American coin production. Rising copper prices were forcing the United States Mint to rethink how pennies were made. Up until 1982, most pennies were composed primarily of copper. The cost of producing a penny was creeping dangerously close to its face value. The Mint was under pressure, experimenting, adjusting, and preparing for major changes that would soon transform the penny forever. That makes 1981 especially important. It was one of the last full years when pennies were still made mostly of copper. Collectors today see this year as part of the final chapter of the classic copper cent era. And coins from transitional periods often carry more interest than people realize. Now let's talk about the missing mint mark. In U.S. coinage, mint marks indicate where a coin was produced. AD means Denver, and S means San Francisco. But when there is no mint mark at all, that tells us the penny was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. During much of American history, Philadelphia coins did not carry a mint mark, which makes no mint mark pennies incredibly common at first glance. So, why would anyone care about a 1981 no mint mark penny? The answer lies in condition, survival, and collector demand. Millions of these pennies were minted in Philadelphia, but very few survived in truly high-quality condition. Most were spent immediately, scratched, worn down, discolored, or damaged through decades of circulation. Finding one that still looks sharp, clean, and well struck is far harder than people expect. Collectors pay close attention to details most people ignore. The sharpness of Lincoln's portrait, the clarity of the date, the strength of the lettering in Liberty, and "In God We Trust." The absence of heavy scratches, stains, or corrosion. Even tiny marks can make the difference between an ordinary penny and one worth setting aside. Another detail that adds intrigue is how pennies were handled in the early 1980s. This was a high-production era. Speed mattered. Coins were struck quickly, sometimes with less precision than earlier decades. That means perfectly struck examples stand out dramatically to trained eyes. When collectors find a 1981 penny with clean surfaces and strong detail, it becomes far more desirable. There is also something psychological about modern-era coins that suddenly gain value. People expect old coins to be valuable. They expect worn wheat pennies or silver coins to matter. But a penny from the early 1980s challenges that assumption. It feels too recent to be special, which makes discovering its worth even more exciting. The Lincoln Memorial on the reverse adds another layer to the story. That design ran from 1959 to 2008, meaning billions of coins were produced. Yet within that massive sea of pennies, certain dates quietly rise above the rest. The 1981 no mint mark penny is one of those sleeper coins. It doesn't scream rarity. It whispers it. Collectors who specialize in Lincoln cents often describe hunting for these coins as a game of patience. You might look through thousands of pennies and find nothing. Then suddenly, there it is. A clean 1981 penny with no mint mark, crisp edges, strong luster, and minimal wear. That moment is what keeps people searching. Condition is everything. A heavily worn example is usually worth only face value. But coins that look almost untouched, as if they were never meant to circulate, tell a different story. These are the coins that end up graded, stored in protective holders, and traded among collectors who understand their significance. Another reason this penny remains interesting is nostalgia. The early 1980s represent a period many people remember vividly. The coins from that era passed through childhood hands, arcade machines, school cafeterias, and family piggy banks. Holding a 1981 penny can feel like holding a small piece of personal history. When emotion meets collectability, value often follows. There's also the thrill of accessibility. You don't need to visit an auction house or spend thousands of dollars to find this coin. It could still be sitting in circulation, hiding in plain sight. That possibility turns ordinary people into treasure hunters. Every handful of change becomes a chance. Coin collectors often say that the most dangerous assumption is believing a penny is worthless just because it's common. History has proven that wrong again and again. Values change. Interest grows. Survival rates drop. And coins once ignored suddenly earn attention. The 1981 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny represents all of that. It is a reminder that value is not always loud or obvious. Sometimes it's quiet, waiting for someone curious enough to look closely. So, the next time you come across a penny dated 1981, don't rush past it. Turn it over. Check the mint mark area. Study the surface. Look at Lincoln's face. Look at the memorial. Ask yourself how many hands that coin has passed through, and how many didn't notice what you're noticing now. Because in the world of coin collecting, knowledge is what transforms pocket change into opportunity. And sometimes, a single cent carries a story far bigger than its size suggests. And when that 1981 no-mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny is found in excellent condition, its value can reach $3.6. It begins with something so ordinary that almost nobody pays attention to it. A single penny, the smallest coin in the United States of America. Something people toss into jars, leave on counters, or spend without a second thought. Yet sometimes, the most common object can carry an unexpected story. A story of history, mystery, and value hiding in plain sight. Today, we are diving deep into one of those quiet coins that has been passing through hands for decades without people realizing what they might be holding. The 1982 Lincoln 1-cent penny with no mint mark. To understand why this penny matters, we need to step back into time. The early 1980s were a turning point in American coinage. Rising metal prices were forcing the United States Mint to make big changes. For decades, Lincoln pennies had been made primarily of copper. But by 1982, copper had become too expensive. The mint was under pressure to redesign how pennies were made, not how they looked, but what they were made from. This created a unique moment in U.S. coin history, and the 1982 penny sits right at the center of it. What makes this year so fascinating is that it was not a simple transition. It was messy, complicated, and rushed. In 1982, pennies were struck in both copper and zinc. Some were heavier, some were lighter. Some had different lettering styles. Some were produced early in the year, others later. And in the middle of all this change, millions of pennies were released into circulation with subtle differences that most people never noticed. Now let's focus on the no mint mark detail. When a Lincoln penny does not have a mint mark, it means it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. At the time, Philadelphia pennies usually carried no mint mark at all. This makes the coin seem ordinary at first glance. No special letter. No obvious sign of rarity. Just a simple Lincoln portrait on the front, and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. But that simplicity is exactly what makes this coin dangerous to ignore. The front of the coin features Abraham Lincoln, one of the most iconic faces in American history. His profile is calm, dignified, and familiar. Above his head, the word liberty stands proudly. To the side, the year 1982 quietly marks its place in history. There is nothing flashy here. Nothing screaming for attention. And that is why so many of these pennies slip through hands unnoticed. Turn the coin over, and you see the Lincoln Memorial. This design had been used since 1959 and was nearing the end of its long run. The tiny statue of Lincoln sits inside the memorial, a detail so small that many people never even realize it is there. At the top, the words United States of America and 1 cent frame the design. Again, nothing unusual at first glance. Yet behind this familiar image lies a story shaped by economics, urgency, And change point. One of the most important things about the 1982 penny is weight. During this year, some pennies were made with mostly copper, while others were made with a zinc core coated in copper. The copper versions are heavier. The zinc versions are lighter. To the untrained eye, they look almost identical. But to collectors, that difference can mean everything. Now imagine millions of coins being struck during a time of transition. Machines adjusted. Materials changed. Workers rushed to meet demand. Errors happened. Variations slipped through. And the no-mint mark pennies from Philadelphia were right in the middle of this chaos. Some were struck early, some late. Some used old materials, others used new ones. This is why collectors pay such close attention to this year. Condition also plays a huge role. A penny that has been circulating for decades will show wear. Scratches, dull surfaces, faded details. But some 1982 pennies survived in remarkably clean condition. Maybe they were saved in a drawer. Maybe they were forgotten in a collection. Maybe they were never spent at all. These well-preserved examples are the ones that catch attention today. What makes this even more exciting is that many people still have these pennies. They are not locked away in museums. They are not all held by collectors. They are still out there. In jars. In boxes. In old wallets. In inherited collections. The idea that something so small and common could still be hiding value is what keeps collectors searching. Another layer to this story is how little attention this coin received when it was released. There was no announcement. No warning. No special promotion. People were too busy living their lives. Spending pennies. Dropping them in vending machines. Nobody stopped to think that this ordinary coin came from one of the most complicated years in penny production history. As time passed, collectors began to study 1982 pennies more closely. They weighed them, compared them, examined the lettering, looked at strike quality. Slowly, patterns emerged. Differences that once seemed meaningless became important. And the no-mint mark versions became part of that conversation. The Lincoln penny has always been a symbol of everyday America. It represents commerce, history, and accessibility. Anyone can own one. That is part of its power. And when a coin like the 1982 no-mint mark penny gains attention, it reminds us that value is not always about rarity alone. Sometimes it is about context, condition, and timing. Today, people search through rolls of pennies hoping to find something special. They weigh coins. They study dates. They learn details that most people overlook. And among those searches, the 1982 penny still holds a quiet place of interest. Not because it is flashy. Not because it is famous, but because it represents a moment when change was happening behind the scenes. If you find one of these pennies, the first step is not to clean it. Cleaning can destroy value instantly. The second step is to observe it carefully. Look at the color. Feel the weight. Check the details. Even small differences matter. This is how collectors separate the ordinary from the interesting. What makes this story powerful is that it connects the past with the present. A coin minted during economic pressure, now resting in modern hands. A design honoring a president from the 19th century, produced during a transition in the 20th century, still circulating in the 21st century. That journey alone gives this penny a unique place in American history. For many people, the value is not just about money. It is about discovery. The thrill of realizing that something you ignored for years has a story worth telling. The excitement of learning that history is not always locked behind glass, but sometimes sitting quietly in your pocket. And now, after all the history, all the mystery, all the quiet details that make this coin fascinating, we arrive at the question everyone asks. What is it actually worth? In circulated condition, the 1982 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny is generally valued at $3.50.